I'd say for about 25 years now, I have absolutely detested the click it or ticket campaign. I remember driving in Southern California on the southern, they call them freeways, on the Southern California freeways, and listening to some music, in a good mood. And I would see a gigantic sign that says click it or ticket. And it would just put me in a bad mood. I mean, it would just put me in a bad mood right away. You say, why, Bernie? Seatbelt saves lives, don't you know? Saves society money too. I want you to wear seatbelts. I wear seatbelts. I have to wear seatbelts because my car will ding like a mofo if I don't wear seatbelts. Does that happen to you? Do you drive your car? Say, well, I'm just going to go around the block. And your car won't even let you go around the block without dinging like crazy. Newer cars are the worst, by the way. I had about 3 years ago, something like that. I had a 1997 Chevy pickup truck, and it didn't have the feature. I called the guy I bought it from. I said, hey, man, how did you disable? Don't disable it against the law. Don't pull the tag off your mattress. I'm not encouraging you to break any laws. I want you to do anything like that. But I said, how did you disable the seatbelt alarm? Because I hate that thing. And he said, no, man, they didn't have them in 1997. I didn't do that. I said, oh. So now I still drive an old car. I drive a 2002 Lincoln Town Car, 2003 Lincoln Town Car. It's a big difference if you know anything about town cars between 02 and 03. Biggest difference of all? Who knows? Do you know? How come when I raise my hand, that one goes up? Here's why. In 2003, they brought the hood ornament back. You got to have a hood ornament, right? Wherever I go, I follow the hood ornament till I get there. Wearing a seatbelt, of course. Click it or ticket. I'm going to tell you why. I got some things to show you tonight, actually. I think you might find interesting. If you used to listen to the radio show back in 2012, I was on fire about the damn click it or ticket campaign. So, but my Lincoln Town Car, being an 03, it doesn't drive me too crazy, right? The ding, ding, ding isn't that loud. And it has a good intermittent period. Maybe, I don't know, 40 seconds or so before it does it again. But if I drive a new car, like a 2018 Toyota, say, I cannot start the car, and within 10 seconds, it is screaming at me. Ding, 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 ding. And I think, okay, I'll put it on, because this is how I do. I got a habit of doing this. So law enforcement, if they're watching close, they can get you. And I've heard they've done this before. I start my car, I get in, and I start my car before I put my seatbelt on. Right? I'm living on the edge, man, throwing caution to the wind. And then I back up, drive through the parking lot, and I put my seatbelt on when I get on the road. That's just the way I do it. It's my habit. But in 2012, they got real serious about the click it or ticket campaign. You want to see how serious they got? You may remember it if you were in Florida. The posters that they put up, we're watching even at night. They had night vision goggles. Night vision goggles. The Florida government said that the Highway Patrol, we're watching you even at night. And the picture had night vision goggles on a trooper to see if you got your seatbelt on. So, they're pretty hot and heavy in 2012. And I remember pulling out of Publix or something, and I start my car, back it up. I'm driving out. And when I go to get on the road, I see a police vehicle. It's got sirens, sort of telltale. Paying attention as a clue. So I see it's across the road. And it startled me. I remember being startled, like, oh, is he going to see me putting my seatbelt on? I'm going to get it on there quick. And I remember being so pissed off. It was a deputy, by the way, which made me feel safer, because if it was a trooper, I could have ended up in the clink. But it was a deputy. and they tend to have better judgment. But right now, during the Click It or Ticket campaign, which I think goes on for another few weeks, they're not playing. All right? So get in and buckle up. Even if you're just in the car before you started off and you're just talking, you better buckle up. Click it or ticket. And I remember being pissed off because I know you're going to think I'm over the top, That is a hallmark of totalitarianism. The feeling that government might catch you doing something wrong, even if it isn't wrong, even if they say it's wrong. Driving through the parking lot without a seatbelt, buckle up when you get on the road, that is illegal. Who remembers when not wearing a seatbelt could get you a ticket? Do you remember when that was? When did it start? I think it started in the mid-'80s. It was a secondary offense, right? If you were speeding and you got pulled over, you better click it, Jack. Were you wearing your seatbelt? You don't want to lie to government because government would never lie to you, even about such a serious thing. Click it or ticket, right? I take this with me, right? Walk around right now. If I see anybody with a badge, no, I don't. This would be obnoxious as all hell. But I'm telling you, man, you better, or ticket. Now, they were real serious about it in 2012. God, if you heard me on the radio, I was talking about this all the time. I'm going to show you the Big Brother night vision goggles sign that the Florida government had up at gas stations all over the place. I'm going to show you the post I made from 2012 when I was on the radio. Wait till you see this sign that they had up everywhere. But first, I want to share this from the James Madison Institute. Americans for Prosperity is the largest grassroots organization advancing policies that help people improve their lives. AFP Florida seeks to end corporate welfare, expand energy options, and reform education and healthcare by giving people more choices. Sign up today and volunteer at americansforprosperity.org. All right, this was back in 2012. Who remembers this? God. This was all over the place. The Click It or Ticket campaign. And I was so pissed off every time I saw it. I'd be driving around in a great mood, listening to one of my favorite songs, pull up to a gas station, and I see this. And I said, Florida is keeping pace with the federal government's totalitarian Big Brother campaign. You are to know that you are being watched, recorded, monitored, and tracked everywhere and always for crimes, non-crimes, and pre-crimes. Another reminder of how totally at the mercy you are to the Capitol. Some people say, Bernie, you are being outrageous. Seatbelts are great. Again, I encourage you, wear a seatbelt. They save lives, right? My problem is the government should not be so paternalistic. It's not that kind of relationship, okay? They are our servants. I'll tell you more about why I didn't like this, but take a look closely at this. People in state government thought this was a great idea. Now, he's got night vision goggles on, but it's one of those signs where if you look at it from a certain angle, they're just the aviator glasses. But if you look at them another way, they are night vision goggles. Cops are watching, even at night. Dun, dun, dun. Drive without a seatbelt and you will get a ticket. No excuses, FL. Justawarning.com. I think I have identified a budget cut. But guess what? They get federal grants to do this kind of stuff. Now, if you look inside the lens, you may or may not be able to see that. You see what's in there? That is an image of a driver. And the driver appears to be doing this. Like he's about to, like he's covering up. They thought that would be a good idea. But when I asked, they said the driver was putting on a seatbelt. He wasn't covering up. He was putting on a seatbelt. He was being responsible, Bernie. You should be responsible too. I am. I wear a damn seatbelt. But what I don't appreciate is this. You say, but Bernie, it's important. It's important. Some people need reminders. See, the reason that we are where we are in this country with a federal government out of control, telling you what you can and cannot say, what you have to take, where you can go, on and on and on. That they've got to monitor you because maybe you just might wear horns and storm the Capitol. It didn't happen overnight. It was incremental, right? So seatbelts in the mid-'80s, secondary offense. They pull you over. Hey, pal, you don't have a seatbelt on. I got to give you a ticket for that. In Florida, sometime over the past decade, and I don't remember when it was, made it a primary offense. So now you can get pulled over if an officer doesn't see that shoulder strap coming across. You get pulled over for that. Now let's think about it. First of all, if you totally disagree with me, I'd love to hear what you have to say. Do I think that not wearing a seatbelt should be a ticket? No, I don't. Would I feel this way if they didn't put up signs, click it or ticket, and they didn't put up these type of "we're watching you" signs with night vision goggles, you better wear your seatbelt? If it were still a secondary offense, it wouldn't bother me. I wouldn't even be thinking about it. But when I'm driving down the road, listening to my favorite music, and government jumps out at me and points its finger and pokes me in the chest and tells me what you better do or else, I got a real damn problem with that. No servant should ever treat the person he serves like that. That is an indication that it is not the servant. And it pisses me off. And I think, well, I know for sure. Let me show you how I know for sure. I know for sure, and I knew it. Look, anytime you see government doing something like this in a coordinated way from county to county, you know that there are probably grants involved. And I don't think it's very much. I don't think, say, the sheriff's office is, making a killing on this. And I'm sure that the deputies believe in this, and I don't have a problem with that either. What I have a problem with is devoting so much time on spending all these resources, because I always hear we don't have enough resources to go after, say public officials who are robbing us blind, who are violating Sunshine Law, who are actually breaking major laws, violating public trust in ways that hurt us all the time, right? We don't have the resources to go after that, Bernie. We're too busy with our deputies lined up everywhere trying to catch people who haven't clicked it. And since they haven't clicked it, we got to write them a ticket. See? I swear to you, and I mean this, if state attorney offices, if sheriff's offices, if they got grants, right, big grants to clean up public corruption, I'll bet you they'd be arresting people, right? But if they get grants to stop drugs, if they get grants to, and I'm talking about even, people running around with a little bit of pot. I'm not talking about all the human trafficking going on in Bay County right now. Yeah, I see it. All of that major stuff that's happening right now. And there's a lot of it. And some really bad people are being yanked off the street. Thank you, law enforcement. But there comes like a sense of proportion, right? Click it or ticket, to me, is a monumental waste of time. If a deputy is there, he can't be there. All this human trafficking going on, all of the stuff they keep telling us is happening, and we're focused on pulling over people not wearing seatbelts. I got a problem with that. I got a problem with government, talking to me that way. Click it or ticket, pal. And I got a real problem with priorities. But if there were big grants to be made to go after public corruption, boy, I bet you they would. All right, I want to show you how I know and how much in federal grants are given to the states right after this. Don't let back pain and neck pain get you down. Find relief at Brown Chiropractic Center on St. Andrews Boulevard in Panama City. Dr. Sherry Brown helps people heal naturally with chiropractic adjustments and deep tissue massage. Call 769-3777. You want to look good? You want to feel good? Little John's Big and Tall is where it's at. Right across the street from Sky's Pizza Pie, 5700 North Davis Highway. You can find out more online at littlejohnsbigandtall.com. He's also a member of the iTex trading community, where your iTex dollars are welcome. All right, let's take a look. Well, first let's take a look at the local news covering the Click It or Ticket campaign. Let's start with that. Channel 7, take it away.
Click it or ticket, saying you've likely heard, reminding you to wear a seatbelt in your vehicle. News Channel 7's Tony Reese talked to the Bay County Sheriff's Office, and officials say they are still seeing crashes where people did not click it.
Seatbelts do save lives.
One quote that speaks volumes to a nationwide campaign. May 23rd through June 5th, law enforcement agencies are reminding drivers to click it or ticket.
Somebody else can get hurt. You're not having your seatbelt. Somebody in the passenger seat, if you get thrown around the car, you could hurt somebody else. But most importantly, you could hurt yourself.
Just in the year 2022, officials with the Bay County Sheriff's Office have already reported a number of cases where people were not wearing a seatbelt. 8 cases ended in serious bodily harm, while 3 ended in fatalities. Officials say just 1 year ago, they recorded 24 serious bodily harm cases and 15 fatalities due to not wearing a seatbelt. In an effort to enforce this policy, agencies are taking a no-excuses approach to seatbelts.
You're not wearing a seatbelt. If an officer sees you or state trooper sees you, you're going to get a ticket.
In Florida, the maximum penalty for a seatbelt violation is $115 in Bay County.
Sometimes you have to do the negative reinforcement of a ticket to get the point across.
Going back just 2 years ago to 2020, a nationwide study showed 55% of males killed in crashes were not wearing a seatbelt. For women, 43% were not buckled up. Don't risk up, buckle up for your safety and those around you. In Bay County, Tony Reese, News Channel 7.
All right, there you go. You better click it or ticket. It saves lives. Again, I encourage you to wear seatbelts. All right? Click it so you don't get a ticket. But I got a problem with priorities. I got a problem with it being a primary offense. I really would not, wouldn't give me any heartburn at all if it were still a secondary offense. And if they didn't, admonish us all the time, like they're an authoritative father figure. I got a problem with that. I want to look at your comments, but first, let me show you. I want to share with you actually an article from 2002. So it's 20 years old, right? 20 years ago, when we sang, Home of the Brave and, Land of the Free, all that stuff. Remember, all the American songs about freedom. Wasn't it? Do you remember that? So let's take a look at oh my goodness. I mean, the paternalistic attitude and the pretext that it causes, right? Here's a point before I share with you this article. Here's a point that was brought to my attention today by Miss Sarah Moon. And I never thought of this before. If you think about what we talked about earlier, how new cars, you can't drive without a seatbelt. I mean, you can't. The new car will scream and yell at you, and it'll get incrementally worse until you would prefer to be waterboarded, right? I'd rather be waterboarded and drive, which would be safer than being beeped at like that by the seatbelt alarm, right? So people who can afford newer cars are newer cars not that expensive or expensive as all get out these days. So newer cars, you can't drive without a seatbelt. So law enforcement's not going to pull over people who can afford newer cars. Now, people who drive hoopties on the other end, people who maybe can't afford a new car and drive an older car that doesn't have the torture alarm to yell at you to put on your seatbelt in case you missed the click it or ticket sign. Those are the people who are vulnerable to being pulled over. And since it is a primary offense, let's see if anybody's not wearing a seatbelt. It looks like somebody's not wearing a seatbelt. Woo, woo! Go get them. Meanwhile, politicians are robbing us blind. But I don't want to. I don't want to be too redundant about that. So you go after and you pull them over. It is going to be people who do not have newer cars, probably in a lower socioeconomic demo. So am I saying that that's the whole purpose behind this? No, but I am saying that it is a great pretext if law enforcement were so inclined to want to pull somebody over and start sniffing around. Well, Bernie, if you're not doing anything wrong, you don't have anything to worry about that. I know, I get it. But isn't that an interesting take? Isn't that an interesting take? I had never thought of that before. So it really disproportionately affects people who can't afford newer cars. Because if you have a newer car, you're wearing your seatbelt. I think seatbelt compliance is like 90% these days. That's what the figure I've been seeing, like 90% these days. So the fact that it's grant money, the paternalistic attitude by law enforcement, the sign that I showed you of the night vision goggles from 2012 in Florida with the highway patrol saying, we're watching you even at nighttime, pal. You better click it or ticket because we're watching. All right, so let me share with you this article. I hope you're interested in this. Let's take a look at it. So this is, again, from 2002. And it was submitted to the House Transportation Committee. This is at a government website. And this was back then a guy named, actually, it's written by William Holdorf, The Fraud of Seatbelt Laws, okay? Infringe on a person's constitutional rights. They actually do. They actually do, especially when they're a primary offense. So I just want to share with you a little of the history of this. On the promise of reducing highway fatalities and auto insurance rates, and you'll see the bait and switch that was done, by the way, a tremendous bait and switch. Government told the auto industry, see, that's why industries are stupid if they listen to government. If you put the seatbelt beeping alarm in the car, then we will not require you, mandate by law, that you put in airbags. But you better do the, so they did. They put the seatbelt beepers in there. And then, of course, government came after them for the airbags, which, again, I hope you have airbags. Airbags save lives. But they also make cars, all of these features, price people out of newer vehicles. Should they be accessories you can add on? That would be my choice. Does the federal government have permission? The federal government. Did the states and the people ever delegate to the federal government in the Constitution that they could do this? Well, Bernie, they didn't have cars. Okay, great point. On the promise of reducing highway fatalities and auto insurance rates, seatbelt laws began to pass in state legislatures throughout the United States, beginning when I graduated high school, 1985. Yeah, 1985. I'm going to be a senior citizen in about 3 months. How about that? You'll find me at Denny's. I'm gonna get a senior discount in 3 months. My mother said, "Don't worry, honey. You're only going to be a junior senior." So thanks, Mom. While such laws had been proposed before 1985, they were rejected by most state legislators since they knew the vast majority of the people opposed them. The Gallup Opinion Index stated in the latest survey, a huge majority, 78%, opposes a law that would fine a person $25 for failure to use a seatbelt. This represents an increase of resistance since 1973 to such a law. All right. Now, given the massive, obvious opposition to seatbelt laws, why did state legislators suddenly change their minds and begin to pass them in 1985? Simple: money and federal blackmail. You wonder why states are under the thumb of the federal government, because they start taking a ton of money from the federal government that they gave them in the first place in order to comply to federal mandates that are anti-constitutional, repugnant to the Constitution, not authorized by the Constitution. According to the Associated Press, the article says, Brian O'Neill, president of the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety, said, quote, "People have been talking about seatbelt laws, and there have been attempts to pass them for well over 10 years. It's been a snowball effect. Once the money poured in, where's that seatbelt noise? Ding, 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 ding. That sudden flow of money began in 1984 when then Secretary of Transportation Elizabeth Dole promised to rescind, she promised that they would rescind the rule that required automakers to install passive restraints by 1990 if states representing 2/3 of the U.S. population passed seatbelt laws by April 1st, 1989. Passive restraints include airbags, which automakers bitterly opposed because they claimed the high expense to develop and install them would raise the price of cars way beyond what the average auto buyer could pay. Now, Elizabeth Dole's promise amounted to an invitation to the automakers to use their financial resources to lobby states for seatbelt laws, something the Department of Transportation was forbidden to do by law, in exchange for the government's not forcing them to install airbags. In effect, the DOT surreptitiously used the financial resources of the private sector to further the political agenda of the federal government through blackmail. In response to her promise, automakers created the lobby Traffic Safety Now, the lobby called Traffic Safety Now, TSN, and began spending millions of dollars to pass seatbelt laws. That caught the attention of state legislators. And then suddenly, the will of the people, void of financial backing, gave way to the will of the seatbelt lobbyists, who had millions of dollars to spend. Besides the millions of dollars spent by TSN, the lobby, the federal government added millions more, for example, giving grants to states for achieving a certain percentage of seatbelt use and to pay the police to enforce the seatbelt law. And with increased seatbelt law enforcement, ticket income increased, another source of easy revenue for the state. While TSN, the lobbying group, championed passage of seatbelt laws under the banner of reducing highway fatalities and auto insurance rates, no mention was made that the real purpose was to avoid installation of airbags. That was their real motive. So I'm going to pass over some of this stuff and go to the loss of freedom, which used to matter. I bet it doesn't matter to, it might matter to about 9 of you, between 9 and 14 of you, but not too many more. While the hundreds of millions of dollars spent in support of seatbelt laws has been a horrendous financial burden to society, the greatest cost is not really money. It's the loss of freedom. Seatbelt laws infringe a person's rights as guaranteed in the 4th, 5th, and 9th Amendments and the Civil Rights section of the 14th Amendment. Such laws are unwarranted intrusion by government into the personal lives of citizens. They deny, through prior restraint, the right to determine one's own individual personal health care standard. While seatbelt use might save some people in certain kinds of traffic accidents, there is ample evidence that in other kinds, people have more seriously been injured. I'm not going to buy into that argument because while it's true, it is, I think that we would all agree, I certainly would, that you're much safer wearing a seatbelt in a car accident than without. There are certain kinds, I understand. So I'm not buying that argument. The state has no authority to subject people. Okay, I'm not buying that argument. I said, as for the promise, seatbelt laws would reduce auto insurance rates. There is no record of any insurance company ever reducing its rates because a seatbelt law was passed. A study released in August 1988 by the Highway Loss Data Institute compared auto accident injury claims before and after the enactment of seatbelt laws in 8 states and could find no clear-cut evidence that belt use laws reduce the number of injuries. The number is disappointing. All right, so anyway, I found the article to be interesting because it showed what just about always is the case. Whenever politicians, local, state, or federal, Republican or Democrat, tell you that they want to pass a law to keep you safe, if you follow the money, you'll find the real answer. They don't give a flip about you. If they did, they would be focusing more resources on arresting, say, I don't know, politicians robbing us blind, instead of going after people who can't afford new cars that don't allow you to drive without seatbelts because it's like torture listening to the ding, 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 and pulling over people who can't afford that as a pretext often to find more crimes. I have a real problem with seatbelt laws. If I'll show you how much the federal government is giving to the states. The federal government giving money to the states. Does the federal government have money to give to the states? Do you know that the federal government right now is so out of control, the most reckless 535 people in the history of the world, those are the senators and the members in the House of Representatives. They are borrowing more than $6 million a minute. That's how much money they spend. More than $6 million a minute. And locally, you get commissioners and council members talking about we need more federal grant money. While these United States, it's like we're on the Titanic, the financial Titanic. And these guys are putting the most expensive silverware in their pockets, which, always makes me smile because they'll be the first ones to drown. Oh, if only it were that easy. Anyway, let's take I want to show you how much money is being given to the states by the federal government. It's borrowing more than $6 million a minute. If you don't believe me, look it up. You may not be able to find it anymore. Fact checkers say. All right, but first I want to thank my sponsors.
When your life is on the line, hire the lawyer who lives in our community, works in our community, and worships in our community. I'm Al Saulene, your Panama City Beach lawyer. 850-215-0628.
It's a hot time in Florida, and my friend Ryan can make sure your air conditioning is running at peak efficiency. He could even install a new one, built to a higher standard, American standard. Find out more at pcairrepair.com. All right, let me show you this. Let's go to the federal government and see how much money they're giving to the states so that they can divert so they can pay counties to divert deputies and police officers to go after people not wearing seatbelts. All right, here you go. This is the Highway Safety Grant Programs. NHTSA.gov provides grants to states so states can conduct effective highway safety programs. Not going after reckless drivers because they're focused more. Yeah, they go after reckless drivers, right? But if the deputy is over here looking specifically, for seatbelt stuff, a deputy here can't be, for example, going through neighborhoods, making sure the neighborhoods are safe. Going to high crime areas, being a deterrent to breaking in vehicles, because a deputy can't be at two places at once. An officer can't be at two places at once. Priorities, sense of proportion, and right now they're grants. So the Office of Regional Operations and Program Delivery administers over $500 million in grant programs annually to the 50 states. So $500 million, billion schmillion, right? Drop in the bucket, Bernie. I mean, the federal budgets, there is no federal budget, but the federal government spends well over $4 trillion a year just to operate the federal government. Well over $4 trillion a year. So, there's federal grants involved. There is that damn click it or ticket campaign. I keep this on me all the time, just in case I'm ever questioned. Did you click it or ticket? Man, I'm so into it. I do it even when I'm walking. I'm a team player. Hey, wear your seatbelt. Be safe. All right. Be kind to the officers. They do things that we are so grateful we don't have to do. They see things that they can't even sleep at night. They're harassed. Right. So they deserve that. My criticism is priorities of government and a sense of proportion and a paternalistic attitude of a servant that now is the boss of us and pokes us as we drive around with signs, click it or ticket. Ruin my day. really does piss me off. All right. So anyway, that's all I got. I just wanted to share. This sounds like an old radio show. I used to talk about this way too much on the radio. Way too much. But it's important to me because we are where we are today with the government's nose in every aspect of our lives because it was an incremental process. Incrementalism is how we got here in these United States. And this is only one, maybe little, but they're all little. They all add up to something big in the long run. I tried to tell you, but I'm always trying to tell you. All right, that's about all I got. If you want to support my work, you know how? Do you remember how? You can become a patron at patreon.com/Bernie Thompson. It's like giving a tip for as little as $5 a month. And that crowdfunding keeps me going. It's easy. You can quit at any time. And better than anything, it's anonymous. Nobody will know it's you. And that matters around here, right? You're supporting Bernie. Bernie. But if you want to support my work, that's one way to do it. And as always, I want to thank all of our sponsors, and that includes the Unknown Patriot, just like the Unknown Comic on the Old Gong Show. The Unknown Patriot, thank you for your support too. All right, I'm going to punch out of here, and I'm going to go get in my car. I'm going to turn it on. I'm going to back up, start driving in the parking lot, and then I'm going to click it. So I don't want to get a ticket. No way. I'll see you tomorrow.